Okay? And this ego, it deludes, you could say, this organism so that we're not able to see the very thing that's in front of us. Okay? The present moment, we're living it every moment, right? But we're not able to feel it because the thoughts keep us in the future, or the thoughts keep us in the past. So we're not able to experience the very thing that's the fabric of life, the movement, the present moment that happens all the time. We're like missing it. But it's here. You cannot deny, right? I don't think anybody can deny that the present moment is every present moment, right? But our thoughts will not allow us to feel it. So Jnana Yoga says start from the end. Assert to yourself, I am that. Again and again and again. See, the mantra in Jnana Yoga is, I am he. Repeat it to yourself. Or, if you look at the supreme existence as a mother figure, however you can say, I am she. But again and again, the mantra is of strength. Don't put yourself down. You're not a servant of God in Jnana Yoga. You're not this poor person, the suffering person. You are that present moment awareness. This is your true self. Tell yourself that. I am that. I am he. I am the supreme consciousness. I am the awareness. I am the existence. There's nowhere where I'm not. I am that awareness which exists here as well as there. I'm the supreme looker. I'm the witness consciousness. I'm in this part of the world. I'm in that part of the world. I'm not attached to any particular body. I am this grand being. That is me. I am he. There is no difference whatsoever. I'm not this body and mind. I'm not this ego personality. This is just a delusion. I am that. You see? So it's an assertion for the end of the goal. It's repeating this again and again, where there starts to be a shift in our attention. When we assert this again and again and again, and actually in India there's some wonderful stories where, like the sannyasins, the monks, they would practice this again and again and again. And even when the lion would pounce on them, he would catch some poor monk who was stranded off from the people and drag him into the forest. You could hear the monk screaming out loud, I am he, I am he, I am he. Could you imagine the bravery of that? Right? This is how much conviction we need to have until our last breath, asserting that I am that supreme consciousness again and again and again. And what happens is there is a shift of the ego. You see, the ego then starts to shift, because normally the ego looks at who we identify ourselves to be. Right? So I am a man, I am this age, I live in this apartment, I work as a therapist, blah, 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 blah. All these ego identities that each of us is like hypnotized with, the ego is constantly shining on those identities, and we're mesmerized by them, and we walk around believing we're that. Nonsense, says Jnana Yoga. This is nonsense. This is hypnosis. Throw it out. Give yourself a new identity. Tell yourself of who you really are. And by doing that, the ego slowly, it starts to shift. And at some point, you start to be not so sure. Wait a second, am I really, a boy and all of this stuff? Like, do I really know this is true? Yes, it appears like that, right? It appears like that because I've been told that since childhood, and I've been repeating that all over again, that my name is Yuri, and so on. But when you start to look at it that way, and you meditate, of course, you do all the spiritual practices, you do your yoga, you do your prayers, everything, right? Nothing needs to be taken out. But the self-identity piece, when you really begin to contemplate and consider that, you may start to see that actually the real you is just the awareness. You are aware. What is that aware being? Then everything starts to change. Then you really start to question your identity. So this is a path for the brave. This is a path for you don't mind kind of shaking up this complete belief of who you think you are. And when you look at that, you start to eventually get little realizations. They will come through. Sometimes they come through in our sleep, but eventually they start coming through in your day-to-day life. You will have like a stun, like your thoughts will stop, and then you will just literally realize that you are the consciousness. The second you do that, you are liberated right away from a whole bunch of your sufferings, because the sufferings, they rest on our identities. All of the sufferings rest on identities, you see, because the sufferings is, oh, my identity is being challenged, or I really need to preserve this identity, or this is where all the suffering comes from. When you see that you are the consciousness and you have nothing to do with who you were taught you were, you start getting liberation. And at some point, you have an awakening where you see that, wow, I was never this. It was just a cloud of ego that was covering my heart. When this starts to lift, you have flashes. You are the being. You are the being, which is untouched by anything that can happen in this world. You are the consciousness.